Hi, guys, and welcome to a new edition of Digital Brunch Live. With Digital Brunch, we are aiming to bring you digital marketing and e-commerce news. We are planning to do this weekly, but so far so good. It hasn't been exactly weekly, so I'm not gonna promise something that I can't do. But yes, when we have news, we will be definitely bringing them to you. Today we'll be covering the latest in online marketing and e-commerce as usual. We have news from Amazon, Instagram, TikTok, and Google. And yeah, we don't have anything from Facebook this time, which is honestly surprising. So I was saying, Google, how is GA4 treating you? I don't know about you, but I know this is really a topic nowadays, and it's like everyone is complaining. And I know that we are all upset about these Google Analytics programs and these new GA updates. I know this, I know. So it was announced a month ago that starting July 2023, Universal Analytics would stop processing hits and will be replaced with the fresh GA4 no one wants to do anything with. Everyone is complaining about the interface, everyone complaining about the reports. So far, so good. No one is happy. But what's the deal actually with GA4? I admit that I didn't look very much into it in the beginning, and I was actually very surprised to find out that the deal with GA4 is not just an interface update. I know that most of you are asking why this and why does Google want to make our lives even more complicated than they are in digital marketing. Well, in truth, GA4 is not an update, but actually a Google Analytics preparation for the cookieless era I was telling you about. We all know that the cookie Armageddon is coming with the increase in and more and more focus on privacy concerns. Users are increasingly opting out of sharing their data. And this gap in collecting data is growing and growing more and more as the cookieless era is coming. We know that from 2023, Google Chrome will also stop the collection of third-party data. And of course, this is going to make things even more complicated. So coming back, the cookieless era is coming, and GA4 is actually Google's preparation for this. And it's actually designed to fill in the gaps when we no longer have this data collected from users. It is going to use what it explains as blended data. From what I understood, it's going to mainly use machine learning in order to fill in the gaps where we don't have cookies and user identifiers and we no longer have data. Another thing which I thought is pretty important is that GA4 doesn't actually store IP addresses. So this is also a difference from analytics, and it mainly nowadays relies only on first-party cookie collection. It's user-based, and mainly it is more privacy-focused. Moreover, I think it's worth mentioning that yes, it's going to come with also an interface update, but it's not as bad as we think. For example, whenever I had to search for a new report in the new interface, maybe it wasn't really, how to say, it wasn't maybe the most, it wasn't like it was before. I think this is the best way to put it, but I think it was intuitive enough. And I think this is very, very important. If you want to hear more about why GA4 and so on, I would also like to invite you to GPEG Summit 31st of May. And also a nice update regarding GA4 is that one of the speakers for GPEG Summit that is happening at the end of this May is Krista Zaiden, which is a former Googler, which was actually in charge of, was actually part of the team that rolled out GA4, and she was very involved in this. So I think we all would like to ask her some questions, let's say. Okay. Also, I reminded that I remembered that I read an interview with Krista, and an interesting thing she was saying regarding analytics and the new GA4 update was that actually the code and script from Google Analytics was actually using So the script used was actually more than 15 years old. So yes, I guess it's obviously that it's time for an update. Okay, so let's move on from GA4 to other digital marketing news. And I think you're going to be pretty surprised to find out that we have an update from Google Responsive Display Ads, the RDAs. I honestly didn't hear an update from display advertising in Google for a while, so I was honestly surprised, but you will find out that it's actually good news. As we all know, the digital marketing campaigns show more and more on mobile devices. It was time for Google Display to come up with an update here. And what is interesting is that from now on, we are going to be able to use portrait images and videos in our Google display campaigns, in our responsive display campaigns. The update is just being rolled out, but it's going to be happening pretty soon. As we are here at Google Ads, I'm going to mention again the famous, or at least in my world, they're pretty famous, the Performance Max campaigns. Just an update in case you didn't follow Google Ads and in case you're not familiar with Performance Max. They're actually an innovation that Google Ads introduced at the end of last year, at the end of 2021. And this innovation actually lets you promote your brand, your business, your product, your services across all Google channels, across all Google properties. So actually you can promote from one campaign into all the Google inventory, like YouTube, Discovery, Gmail, search, shopping, and so on. So first of all, it's important to remember that these Performance Max campaigns are going to completely replace shopping campaigns and also local campaigns starting in the third quarter of 2022. So yes, they're here to stay. And as I was saying in the previous edition of Digital Branch Live, it really is important to test them now. Okay, so what I wanted to say is that we have some news regarding these Performance Max campaigns, and one of the most important updates is that they're taking precedence over shopping campaigns. So right now, if you have a smart shopping campaign and you also launch a Performance Max campaign, the Performance Max campaign, the PMax campaign, is going to take precedence over the shopping campaigns. And this is recent. We were expecting it, but now it's becoming official. So it's closer than we thought. Okay. Another quick tip here, which a friend of mine was telling me about last week, and I realized that it's actually very, very relevant to know about it, is that if you launch a Google Performance Max campaign and you don't actually add assets like videos, images, text, you are actually launching a shopping campaign. So it's not actually working over all the Google inventory, it's only launched over the shopping inventory. So it's nice to maybe experiment with this if you only want to test the shopping part or if you're only promoting an e-commerce. Another interesting thing that I read, I don't remember, I think it was in Search Engine Journal, was the fact that actually Google announced that search campaigns have precedence, on the other hand, over Performance Max campaigns when you have an exact match with the keyword. Like, for example, if you have a Performance Max campaign and also a separate search campaign that is working on an exact match with the query that the user has done, actually the search campaign will show first. It will have precedence. So it will be shown before showing the PMax campaigns. So yeah, this is interesting. So if we think about it, it's like search before PMax, before shopping. This is how it is right now. It's interesting to see what else rolls out. Another interesting thing that I actually read, but I haven't seen it in the accounts because it's actually being rolled out now, is that we have 2 additional insights reports for PMax. So just coming back, you know that with Performance Max campaigns, what Google is saying is that we will have a lot of insights reports, which will show us what works best and what are the best inventories and the best segments and so on. So I was saying that we have two new reports. One is the diagnostics report, which is going to show us setup problems for the campaign. And the other report is asset audience insights, which is going to show us the matchmaking, what type of asset like text, image, or video work best with what customer segment. So we are going to know if a certain customer segment interacted better with image, if another customer segment, another audience segment maybe engaged better with video, and so on. And yes, I think this is it. Oh no, I'm lying actually. Another thing which was announced regarding the PMAX campaigns, I just love saying PMAX, the Performance Max campaign. So another thing is that the one-click upgrade I was telling you about last time is going to be rolled out both for shopping and for local campaigns. And now you will be soon able to upgrade your shopping and local campaigns with one click, as I was telling you. Let's see if we really want to do this or not. This is like the last thing. I would say this is a piece of gossip. We've still been testing Performance Max campaigns. We've been testing them honestly over all the inventory. And yes, sometimes you do get results from them, but generally the return on ad spend and the cost per customer acquisition is not better than in the previous smart shopping campaigns. So I think it's a matter of both testing more with them, like our experience, but I think it's also a matter of maybe Google is still improving with this campaign. So maybe we are not all there yet. Okay, so let's move on to Google, to greener pastures, so to say. Okay, so we are moving on to Instagram, and we have some news here. The most, I don't know, the thing that was mostly mentioned in the news is that now we are going to have pinned posts, and that Instagram is actually testing this option of pinning posts to the user profiles. I honestly don't know why this is so interesting, but yes, I could see how it could work, maybe in some influencers, cooperations with brands and so on, to be able to pin a post and to make it more visible and to gain more reach and so on. Let's see how it goes. Another piece of content here is that the Instagram Reels duration has increased from 60 seconds to 90 seconds. And yeah, I think this is it. Oh, no, last but not least, what's more interesting, in my opinion, is that in the US, it's actually still being tested and rolled out on a higher scale, this option of users tagging products in their own user profiles, in their own content, like posts and so on. And I think this is honestly going to be quite interesting. I don't know if I mentioned before, but social commerce is definitely a trend that I feel is going to grow more and more. I'm not sure how it's going to impact us, but I was just reading a survey of market research from Accenture that was saying that we are going to be at 1.2 trillion US dollars as a total social commerce market. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was 1.2 trillion US dollars by 2025. So yes, this is a growing market and it's definitely a trend. It's about the fact that users now share with each other products on social media, users discover products on social media, users tag products on social media, and so on. Is it just optimistic? Is it just a trend? I don't know, but honestly, I do believe in this. I'm not maybe so much looking into NFTs right these days, but into social commerce, yes, I think this is actually very close and it's definitely a trend to look into. The next piece of news, you're not going to like this, and this is why it's not going to be the last piece of news, but it's the saddest, honestly. Amazon just announced that the first quarter of 2022 was actually their first decrease ever since 2015. Everyone is asking whether online shopping is decreasing, whether it's just a reaction of maybe coming back to normal after the increase in the pandemic and so on. Who knows? I'm optimistic and I'm on the side of e-commerce. I'm sure it's still growing. But yes, we've had a decrease in Q1. So interesting to say. You are not going to believe this. The next piece of news is coming from LinkedIn. We have an algorithm update from LinkedIn. It was about time, wouldn't you say? Because I don't think this happened in years maybe. We had updates, but not so important as this one. So bye bye LinkedIn engagement. Or maybe it's just me being pessimistic. But yes, we have some updates here. It's basic stuff that other social media networks are already doing. But as we haven't seen an update from LinkedIn in years, I think it's worth looking into it. So there are two main things. First of all, users will now be able to say that they don't want to see this type of content ever again, so they can opt out from that type of content. And the next one is that what will be shown in your LinkedIn feed is going to change. So from now on, what LinkedIn will try is to show you the type of content that other users have engaged with. So you're going to see the posts, whether they are articles, shared images, videos that others users have liked and engaged with. So that's why I was saying bye-bye organic, LinkedIn reach and engagement. I really think this is going to be quite an earthquake if you are counting on LinkedIn engagement. That's my opinion, at least. Okay, and last but not least, we have news from TikTok. It's growing. If you're not looking into TikTok, I think it's time. And I think it's definitely worth seeing how TikTok is really bringing a cultural change. First of all, how the time that users spend on TikTok is growing. And I think it is really worth experimenting with TikTok ads. And I told you we have some news from TikTok, and that is the launch of a new premium format called TikTok Pulse. It's a premium format that actually puts brands around the top 4% of all videos on the app. So this is going to be quite interesting. It has a fixed CPM basis, and it's only on reservation basis, actually. If you think about it, most social networks, okay, what was that? Most social networks have rolled out such premium formats. And yes, some brands experimented with them, but that doesn't mean that they are one of the most used. So let's see how this rolls out. It's TikTok Pulse. So maybe it's worth looking into it. Okay, so coming back, just to wrap it up, we have GA4. Remember, we have a year to experiment with it, so it's time to look into it. Honestly, the interface is not so bad. It's not going to be such a big change, and it's very important to set up your GA4 property right now and to start collecting data. I think this is the most important part. Also, don't forget that Krista Zaiden, the former Googler and an excellent speaker, in my opinion, is coming to JPEG Summit 31st of May. So it's soon, and it's happening in Bucharest. Okay, and Performance Max campaigns is another thing that is going to change the way we do ads right now. It's going to replace local campaigns in Google and shopping campaigns in the third quarter of the year. So yes, I think it's definitely worth experimenting with them right now, testing and so on. I know sometimes it's going to feel like you are spending budget, which you're not getting the best results from. Maybe it's not the most effective, but I think it's important to, I really think it's important to learn. And yes, a bunch of news from Instagram, TikTok. These guys are actually fighting each other, so they are all trying to get our best engagement. I think this is it, guys. And yes, next episode of Digital Brunch is going to be published on Monday, I think, and it's going to be about trends again, trends in digital marketing. See you soon, guys. Bye.